All right, guys, welcome to the HVAC workshop. This is going to be our second episode here. We're going to be going over a company out of Florida that does $3.5 million a year, and they want to get to 5 as soon as possible. So if you're interested in more of this content, if you have any thoughts, any suggestions for the business as well, you can put it in the comments, and I'd be interested to hear it. So one thing that I just want to give a quick overview for is that they are at $3.5 million in revenue. And that looks like kind of an 8, but it's 3.5. And they're also really focused currently. I asked what's something that they're taking really seriously, and they did say it's marketing right now. So anyway, I just asked them a couple of statistics. I want to go through the CSR department, the call center reps. I want to see how things are going there. I also want to go through their service department. I also want to go through their sales department really briefly. And kind of, I would say first but not last, because they already said they're really focused on marketing. So it is, I want to kind of touch on their marketing. All right. So anyway, I kind of put this in level of importance. I did, how do I say it? I did kind of get their numbers beforehand, and I wanted to see, that way I could kind of segment it. So most important, we have the most issues or the most area to improve within CSR and service. I would actually put them kind of tied, but either way, that's where we're at. And then sales is going to be, I would say number 3. And then number 4 is going to be marketing. So yeah. So their numbers for their call center currently. Call center is booking at 63% on demand calls. Okay? And initially I was like, okay, well, does that mean that they don't have any good scripts? Well, they have good scripts. Things are really going well for them. But And I was like, what's going on? So they even sent over some calls, listened to the calls. The calls were great. They were following the script. They were doing things really well, really efficiently. They already have all their calls recorded. So I was like, what's going on? So 63% in totality. But what I noticed was that I then kind of looked at, all right, well, how many abandoned calls do they have? Right? So these are calls that come in after hours, and I asked kind of what their process was, and they were like, yeah, we don't really have anybody answer the phone over the weekend, and, we stop at 4:30. So that's when they stop. They have the call center. Girls get in at 7:30, 7:30 to 8:30, and they work until 4:30. So what's happening is that they're having a lot of call volume come through between 4:30 and 8 p.m., and they're not answering those calls. Those calls are they're going abandoned. And what they're doing is they're calling them the next morning. And what we're seeing is that demand calls, that's when somebody actually needs something, right? Hey, my heat's not working, my AC's not working. And a large percentage of these are not being booked on these. I think after that, it's like 44% of after-hour calls are not being booked. So, I mean, that's going to be demand, 44% of demand. After hours. So that tells me that we're also getting a lot over the weekend, and what's happening is that they don't have anybody answering the phone over the weekends. Usually it kind of goes to like emergency for a tech or somebody, which they do on Saturday, but they're not doing anything on Sunday. So we've got to get at least somebody answering the phone so people feel heard. So one thing that I do want to do, they have two center CSRs, call center reps. They have 2 CSRs currently. All right, so what I want them to do, this is actually something that I saw a company do really recently. It's worked very, very well, is what we're going to do is we're going to stagger them. So you're going to have somebody come in a little later. We're going to have somebody come in at, I don't know, let's say somewhere between, let's call it 3 hours later than usual, so 9, 10, 11, 12. We'll say like 1 p.m., 12 to 1 p.m. And then what we're going to have them do is that we're going to have them work all the way until 7, or I'd prefer 8 p.m. Let's do 8 p.m. So that way we're answering calls all through here, and we're not, so we're just segmenting. We're having somebody come in at that 7:30 or a.m., right, to where we're not missing those calls. They get off maybe around 4 or whatever, and then we're having somebody pick up the slack from, there's going to be overlap until, 4:35, and then the second call CSR is going to be there till 8. So what's going to happen, you're actually going to be able to book a lot more people. That gives you 3 more hours. A lot of people are calling after work. We actually saw that with them. For some reason, their call volume is pretty high after 4:30. So we want to make sure that they're there and answer the phone all the way till 8 p.m. And then also, we want to make sure that the calls do forward over to a tech or to the owners over the weekend. I think they're going to do the owners themselves on Sundays. And then on Saturdays, tech is the technicians are going to take care of it. So yeah, just being really, really intentional. And not only that, it's also going to record their calls because they have no idea what's happening over the weekend. If the calls are being answered, it just kind of forwards to the tech cell, and like whatever happens, happens. It's like no. we need to keep track of that. So yeah, that's really what we're going to see. We're going to see a big improvement because right now they're only converting at 44% on off hours on demand calls. Well, if we fix that, what's going to happen is you're going to immediately see that jump up to 75-80% on booking rate in totality. Yeah, that way we're going to see a big improvement. They're going to get more calls on the board. That's the goal. More calls on the board. All right, so that's the call center department. Now, the next thing they mentioned, I'm going to kind of segment here. I'm going to do it just over here. Service. Just kind of looking at some of their numbers here. They're currently doing a 20% flip rate on aged equipment. So they're only, on aged equipment. So what that means is, hey, if I have a system that's 10 years or older, only 20% of the time are we flipping that over to sales. That's a big problem. Because now if we look down at the breakdown, like their sales department right now, doing really good. They're getting a 60% close rate, close on TGLs, tech-generated leads. So they're doing really good on that side of things. But then on the marketing, they're actually surpassing. They're at 38% close on marketed leads. So that's great. I mean, that's what we're looking for. So sales is really doing its job. We want to get this up to 65%. One thing that I did notice is that they're presenting a bunch of different options. They're kind of like leaving it. They're not really showing the customer and guiding them through the process. They're more like, hey, here's a bunch of your options. Which one do you want? And it's, and they do give recommendations, but I kind of want to just give them 4 options. I don't want to be giving them a bunch of different options, just 4. That's something that people can kind of handle. They can say, oh, that one's way too much. If they kind of mark that out of their mind, oh, I don't really want the cheapest piece of equipment. All right, boom. Now we're just down to 2 pieces of equipment that they're really thinking about. So that's really the only suggestion that I have for them. Because they do present in the home, which is really good. Present 4 options. Perfect. All right, that's where we want. So we have 4 options for the customer, and we want this here. We want this to be up to 65%, rather than just 60. But their marketing leads, great. Do whatever you're doing there, just keep doing it because that's awesome. But here's the problem: if this right here needs to be 50%. We need to get this up to 50% on aged equipment. Because what's going to happen is we're going to see the amount of TGLs that they create over double. So even if they only get to 40%, let's just say they only get to 40%, they're not hitting the KPIs they need to because they need to hit this 50% here. But let's say they only hit 40%, they're still doubling the amount of TGLs that they have. And TGLs is where they have the highest close rate. That's how it is in almost every business. So we need to get that up to 65% on the close rate on the TGLs, but then above that, we need to be getting at least a 50% flip rate on the technicians. Now, the technicians currently, Now, why do they not have that good of a flip rate? One thing I did notice is that I asked how many calls the techs are running. They're running a lot of calls. They're running like 6 calls a day. Per day on average. In the summer, if they're working like overtime or whatever, they're doing like 7. Okay. And what that tells me, and at least just kind of looking at their process, looking over, the past couple days of work that they did, they're going in, they're fixing the problem, they're getting out. They're going in, they're fixing the problem, they're getting out. There's no thought process. So even though this equipment is 13 years old, their technicians are kind of under the thought process of, all right, fix it, get out, fix it, get out. Just quick, on to the next one, because their schedules are busy. They want to make sure they get to all their calls before, that way they don't have to work crazy late hours. So, I want to do a cultural shift here. Something I already mentioned. But we really only want to have them running 4 calls a day. 4 to 5. And what that's going to do is we want them to be very intentional. We want them to take their time. We want them to, go over to the customer what the issues are on those 10-year or older pieces of equipment. We want them to be pushing TGLs, and then we also want to be having them do like maintenance agreements, really big on the equipment that's not that 10 years. So that's what we want to push for. We want to push on TGLs, tech generated leads, and I want to incentivize. Let's give them something, incentives. Whether you say, hey, I'm going to give you, because the sales department is doing good. So if they flip one over to them, over half the time, boom, you just made $3,500 in profit, right? So I would be fine to give them $50 every single time they flip a TGL, or, however that is. If you hit your numbers for this week, I'll get you a $100 gift card, right? So, that way it's like, hey, if you ran 8 demand calls this week in total, did you flip 4 of them, right? Did 4 of them, I should say, you ran 8 aged equipment. It's called 8 opportunities. So, hey, you ran 8 opportunities. Did you flip 4 opportunities to the sales department? Boom. Then I get you a $100 gift card, or, whatever that is. But think about incentives. What can they do? What can these guys do to make sure that their technicians are making the most of that? So in conclusion, for the service department, what we really want to do is get the amount of calls of them down. We don't want them running so many calls. One thing that they also didn't do very well is that if there is a demand call, if somebody is in need of a service, their system's over 10 years old, or you think it might be, as a demand call, we need to be getting them on the calendar, same day or next day. If you have a maintenance call, if you have, a system that's under warranty or something like that, push those calls off. Push those, reschedule them. We need to be getting to the people that need service now, today. Or if they're out of heat and they're like, don't worry about it. No, we want to get to them today. Not something else that it has way less incentive for them to get flipped over. Because that's the goal. That's our life. That's our lifeline. If we have a bunch of, let's say, of these calls not getting booked in, like the opportunities, let's say the demand calls are really, really good, but the people that are really, really in need of service, like right now, it's cold in my house, it's hot in my house. Let's say that they're not really closing them very well as far as booking them onto the calendar, they're missing a lot of revenue. So we want to make sure, hey, our dispatch, our scheduling is all kind of in line to where we optimize specifically for those people that have older equipment and are in a demand situation. So that's the biggest thing. But yeah, so make sure we limit the amount of calls. We're going to go to 4 to 5 calls a day. We're going to really focus on TGLs. That way they say, okay, well, now I can go way slower. What's the focus, right? You've got to be hitting that 50%, right? Right here. So, yeah, and then maintenance agreements, make sure we're hitting those maintenance. We're talking to the customer about it, especially for those equipment that's not 10 years or older, they're not opportunities. Make sure we're mentioning the maintenances, and then incentives. Let's get incentives to make sure that they're hitting that 50%. And yeah, that's what you're paying them for, right? You're going to make a lot more money if they only run 4 to 5 and they're flipping at that 50% rate, because all of a sudden our TGL total sales is going to more than double, which is, that immediately changes his business. So yeah, let's kind of go over this last little part here, which is going to be marketing. So now I have marketing here. And currently, I just asked because they're running Google Ads, they're doing all the, all these different things. But the one thing that I was just looking for vulnerability, because right now the cost per lead is currently at $120. That's not bad. That is not bad. In total, like total amount that it cost them when they're running either Google Ads, PPC, LSA, or Facebook Meta Ads. So one thing that I did see is I looked at their impression share. That's, hey, what percentage of clicks are you gathering in your area for PPC? It was kind of low. So all I want them to do is just increase the budget. Once they get these systems fixed. Once they're flipping at a 40 to 50% rate, then we can increase the budget. So that's the first order of business is right here. And then, so first month, we fix this. It may take 2 months, maybe longer, but hopefully 2 months, you're at least at 40%. And then the following month, I would then tackle the call center and increasing the marketing budget. Boom. So that's what I would do. Now, vulnerabilities in their marketing. So they're currently doing Google Ads. They also get a good amount of leads through their Google Business Listing. And then they also are getting a good amount of leads through LSA, local service ads, and last but not least, they also are doing Meta ads, which they are getting leads from as well. But these are more demand, the Google Business Listing, the LSAs, the Google Ads. Obviously, these are free. This one here, the Google Business Listing ones. LSAs are they're pay per call, which is awesome. These are pay PPC, pay per click. Meta ads are, they're pay per impression, but we are hitting the ideal amount, or at least the cost for a lead. Our CPL, our cost per lead, is where we want it to be. So if that ever changes, we're just going to turn those off. So or we're going to really edit the campaigns and figure out, hey, why is that not working? So our CPL is always going to be where we want. So I'll just say it is pay per click as well. It's pay per impression, if you will. But anyway, more pay per lead. So where is their vulnerability? Okay, well, the thing that I instantly see as a vulnerability is if a majority of their calls, because a majority of their total call volume is coming from number one is LSA, and number two is their Google Business Listing. That's number one and number two. And then number three is their Google Ads, and then number four is their Meta Ads. Okay? So Meta Ads is their weakest link here, but what I'm seeing is that it's all Google-based. 1, 2, and 3. And the biggest issue is if their Google Business Listing, for whatever reason, gets suspended or put on pause, this goes down in a fiery ball fire, and their LSAs goes down immediately. So immediately they will lose their number one and number two lead generation revenues. So that's a big problem. We actually worked with a business that had this happen, where their Google Business Profile, they had another marketing company that was working with them. They were changing the phone number. They changed it like 3 times in a row in the Google Business Listing, and Google flagged it and was like, oh no, what are you doing? So they took down their Google Business Listing, which took down their LSA profile, which cooked them. Destroyed them. Their call volume fell over 50% in the summer. This is when they're supposed to be stacking cash. So big issues that we have there. So anyway, I just see vulnerability. I see that they're really relying. So what are we going to do to fix that? I want to focus on SEO. And we really want to be getting a good amount of leads organically. This is not pay-per-click. This is just paying for the optimization of it. So finding a good marketing company that can do their SEO good, that can get them ranking on the right keywords, and getting a good amount of leads through their website. Because guess what? If your Google Business Listing gets taken down, if your Google Ads account gets suspended, something like that happens, your SEO still holding strong, your Meta Ads still holding strong, right? So you're at least able to differentiate yourself a little bit. It's rare that you're going to lose your number one, number two, and number three. It's rare you're going to lose LSAs, Google Business Listing, and Google Ads. But if you lose your Google Business Listing, oh my goodness, you lose your LSAs as well, right? And you're really hurting. So they need to make sure to be doing SEO. Make sure that you're not only you're just diversifying. You're really making yourself a lot more safe, because down the road when you hire a bunch of people, you want to make sure that you're protected. You don't want to be in a position where you're 100% relying on LSAs, right? So yeah, that's what I would do. I'd focus on that, and then once they get these processes implemented, I would then increase their budget. That would be the next move. So anyway, if you guys enjoy this workshop, make sure to click the like button. If you have any thoughts, put it in the comments. I really enjoy this. If you have any examples, message us, DM us, email us, or leave it in the comments. Appreciate it, guys. Like I said, if you have any thoughts, let me know, and we'll see you on the next one.